To maintain an acceptable level of chlorine in your pool, you add 1.4 gallons of chlorine. This is 0.007% of the amount of water in your pool. How many gallons of water are in your pool? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to write up my basic setup for my percent equation, which states that my part is equal to some percent of my whole amount. So I guess one thing that's definitely worth talking about is this percent. Typically, you know, when students see this percent, I think a lot of students feel a little bit of panic, like, you know, well, that's not my usual idea of what I think of when I think of a percent. You know, typically whenever I see a percent, I'll see a number, you know, like 70% or 7%. So how do I deal with this 0.007%? Actually, here, let's kind of do it step by step and break it down. So 70% literally means 70 out of every 100, which is the same thing as 7 out of every 10, which is the same thing as 7/10. So 0.7 would be the decimal form. 7% would mean 7 out of every 100. So in decimal form, I'm looking at 7/100ths. So notice now my 7 is in the hundredths place with 7%. All right, let's keep going until we get to our 0.007%. So what exactly does 0.7% mean? Well, 0.7% would mean zero point 0.7 out of every 100. Percent is always out of 100. And 0.7 out of every 100, typically when you write fractions like this, you don't want a decimal here. You want to think of that as 7/1000ths. So in decimal form, now my 7 is going to be in the thousands place. 0.7% literally means 7/1000ths or 0.007. All right, let's keep going. So what does 0.07% mean? Well, now we have 0.07 out of every 100. And now to eliminate this decimal, we wouldn't want to multiply by 10, but we got to multiply by 10 twice, or multiply the top and the bottom by 100. And if I take 0.07 times 100, that's going to give me 7. 100 times 100. So now we're up to 10,000. 100 hundreds is 10,000. So this is 7/10,000ths. So now we would want our 7 to be in the 10,000ths place. Remember, you got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. This is 7/10,000ths, or 7/10,000. We're almost there. Notice this has 2 zeros here. So I got to go one more round with this idea. So I have 0.007%. So this is a very small fraction of my total water in my pool. And that would make sense. You know, when you think of a swimming pool, I'm thinking of a pretty large amount of water. I've never actually had a pool, so I've never actually added chlorine to a pool. But whenever you compare the amount of chlorine that you're adding to the pool to the amount of actual water in your pool, you're looking at a very small amount there, which is why this is so tiny right here. So anyway, just to finish this up, 0.007%, that literally means 0.007, that's just this number right here, out of 100. Percent once again means out of 100. And now, last time it was 7/10,000ths. We're going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by this by 1,000 to move this decimal 3 places to the right. So that's going to be 7 right there. And 100 times 1,000 is going to be 100,000. 100 has 2 zeros, 1,000 has 3 zeros. So whenever you multiply those two numbers, you're going to have 5 zeros. So this is 7/100,000, or 7/100,000ths. So now we got to make sure that this 7 goes in the 100,000ths place. So we have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, hundred thousands. So I had 3 zeros here, and now I have 4. So the decimal form of 0.007% is 0.00007. Now, the quick way, I kind of did the long explanation because I just know so many students struggle with these weird percents. The quick way is, of course, if you have a percent here, you want to think of it as dividing by 100. So really, you're just shifting this decimal 2 places to the left. And when you do that, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in front of that 7. And that's exactly what I have right here. Okay, so let's fill in my percent in decimal form. So I have 0.00007. All right, so now I got to figure out my part and my whole. Okay, so once again, we've talked about this in previous videos, but whenever I see of, the stuff after that is your whole amount. Of what whole amount? Of what total? Of the amount of water in your pool. So the amount of water in my pool is my whole amount, and this question is asking for that. How many gallons of water are in your pool? So my whole amount is what I'm looking for. Now, my part. It says this is. So we talked about how is typically means equals. So my part, or this, is equal to some percent of my whole. So what is this referring to? Well, if you read the previous sentence, you'll know. To maintain an acceptable level of chlorine in your pool, you add 1.4 gallons of chlorine. This, referring back to the 1.4 gallons of chlorine, that is my part. So my 1.4 gallons, this refers back to that. So my part is 1.4. So I have 1.4 equals 0.00007 times x. All right, so let's get x by itself. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by that number. I'll make sure I get the right number of zeros in here each time. There's 4 zeros in front of that 7. So I need to do 1.4 divided by 0.00007. All right, so you can use a calculator here. Here, let's see if I can. Okay, it's not letting me move this. I've already forgot what my problem was. So 1.4. So I have a 1.4. That's not right. That's 104. 1.4 divided by 0.1234, 4 zeros in front of the 7, equals 20,000. So my correct answer here for my number of gallons of water in the pool would be 20,000, and let's put units on that. Gallons.